Welcome back, everyone. Today we have another deck tech video. This time is for Z. Now Z is a leader. This is not the full deck. This is just the commonly used cards in this leader, and the ones that we all can agree of have to go in this leader. This one is a little bit more open to interpretation because there's two different colors that you get to choose from. The ones that I think you have to play on this leader because you have to, it's Queen, Borsalino, Kusan, both Kusans, and these 2K Connors, and this Kobe, because Kusan is just insane with this leader. Once you have Kusan, like the idea is to get to Kusan, and then from there, you get to use your leader every turn if you want to, or depending on what the state of the game is. And this Kusan, which allow you to do the same ability basically, are really important. Borsalino and Queen as your 4-life leader, so you need some defense, and these cards offer you the most value for that amount. You have Kobe, which will serve as a piece of interaction too. Like depending on the matchup, you might not be able to play the Kusan, so you need some discard outlet for the same cards. And Kobe is gonna give you that discard outlet. Zoro and Tagi work very well with the leader, so you do have to play them as they offer the most value for what they can do. Now into the deck choices and the way that you want to bring your deck towards. So it really depends on what you want to do in this meta. Do you want to keep your deck consistent and you want to do the same thing every game, but you're going to have a weaker matchup against Zoro, which is going to be one of the most popular decks? Or you want to cutter your deck to beat the Zoro, or not beat it, you're still going to have a bad matchup either way, but you're going to have, you want to make your deck to be more resilient against that deck, and then you lose a little bit on the other matchups, or at least you're not going to auto-lose that matchup. So these are the options that I can offer you depending on what you want to do either way. You can play ulti if you want to play against like having an option against Zoro when you have to go first. And then you get to ramp once, and that ramp once, it's huge, and it also adds a body to the board. It's a 3K body, so it's not that amazing because it also dies to Vista. So it's an option, but it's not like the best option that you have in terms of playing this leader. Then you have early blockers. It basically just offers you an attacker, or in other matchups, it is more versatile. So I am a proponent of playing this card, as I do like it a lot. In terms of more 2K counters, I think you do have to play them, but the 2K counters here that are more efficient will be these three, and Shiki would be a one that if you're going second, at least you get to play going second. Sengoku works very well with the leader, and you can play just going second. The only problem with him is that is when attacking, and he's more like relying on that keyword, and it's not always possible. But yeah, I mean, it's another option that you have. It's a 3K. All of these are 3Ks, so they are easy to remove. So take for what it's worth. Take that on the face value that it is. Sasaki, if they make you go first. This is one of the options that you have where you can actually ramp into maybe going into events, and then you have an easier turn going into everything else. The problem is that you're discarding cards, so I would only play this card if you're also playing the King Engine, because like if you have to discard for this effect and then you have to discard for your removal, then you're not going to have any cards in hand, and that's not something that you want to do. Izuka, again, I talked about it in the Smoker video. This one is a really impressive card that it will allow you to at least combat the red decks if they make you go first. If they or if you choose to go first, at least you have this option where it's a little bit harder for them to remove, and if they don't remove it, at least it's gonna pressure their board and it's gonna give you an early game pressure. Kamasu, the Manslayer, this card has been really impressive in my testing so far, as it allows you to KO Borsalinos, it allows you to KO a lot of cards on the opponent's field, and also it offers a card that they actually don't, most of the time they ignore this card, but if they're ignoring this card, at least it's something that you can KO there consistently, right? It's something that you can is some pressure that at least they're not going to be able to remove, and it's going to be able to generate more value. So So it's been really impressive for that reason. Shiryu has been a really important card for the deck, I think, and I think it deserves a spot in the deck. As against aggressive decks, it acts as removal, and that's what you want early game. And then later, if you're playing against different kind of decks, it's a 1k counter, which is not bad. And also, if you already have your Kusan out, it's another piece of removal, which it will remove a card that is 6 or less. I mean, 5 or less, I'm sorry. And that's important, that's pretty good. No, 6 or less, actually, because it removes a 1 or less. So you're able to remove cards that are 6 or less, and that's a lot. Like, so that big range of cards that you can actually remove with. And if you have some more other cost reductions effects on board, you're able to just remove anything by just playing him. So I think this card does deserve a spot in this deck. Ura and Hina are more blockers that you have options to. Now, it depends on what you want to do. Do you want to minus your energy? Do you want to play a blocker that you can just get pistol and you lose 5 energy? I think you do want to play blockers. I think one of these 3 you have to add another one. It's more like up to preference of what you think is more important or more valuable when it comes to being able to block. Sengoku, it's another tool that you have if you want to add more cards that reduce the opponent's cost, as it works very well with the leader. I think this card is really good. It's really amazing, but it's kind of pricey for what it does. And I mean, it is what it is with this card. Sakatsuki or King, I don't think you can play both engines in the same deck. I think you have to choose one or the other. You either decide that you want to discard cards for cost, which is better against red decks, as you're able to discard the deck cards in your hand, and also you don't have to minus your energy, which is important. Or you decide to play King, which is more more value centric, since you don't have to discard your cards from your hand, and eventually you're gonna get to 10 energy, and the minus effect is just not gonna affect you as much. And whichever you choose to go with, you have to make your deck like viable for that strategy. King is a really good tech against red decks, and eventually if you played your Kusan, this is gonna KO 2 things for free. The only issue with him is that he delays your Kusan by a whole turn. Like if you play this on curve, it's gonna delay the Kusan another turn. So I would play this one if you're thinking about teching against red decks more than anything. If you're playing against any other deck, you probably don't play this one early on. You play it after you play your Kusan. And I mean, it's gonna be a dead card in your hand until that happens. So take it at face value, but I mean, it's good in everything, depending on what matchup you're gonna play against. And I think it's worth a slot on the deck. I don't know how many, maybe 2, maybe 4. No, maybe 2 or 1 actually. I don't think you can play too many of these cards. Again, it's counterproductive to what you're trying to do with this leader. Blast Breath, and well, let's talk about the 4k counters that you can play in the deck. I think the Blast Breath, you can only play it as a 1 or 2 at maximum, as it offers some defense for chip, and that is helpful, but minusing your energy is not something that you really want to be doing with this leader. Thunder Bagua, Hell Judgment, and Impact Wave. Now, these 2 are more against aggressive decks, but I think Impact Wave is better than Judgment in that sense, as it offers more value even when you hit it out of life. And this one, minusing your energy, it's not something that you really want to be doing. Again, it's the same thing as the Blast Breath. So it's kind of like maybe as a 1-off or a 2-off in the deck, just for those niche moments that you want it, but you don't want to oversaturate your deck with this card, because you're never going to be able to use your leader consistently, and at that point, why play this leader, right? Thunder Bagua, I think, is one of the better ones in this leader. So it allows you early on to ramp into your 10-drop if you take the first 2 life, because you can do that with this leader. You can, depending on the matchup that you're playing against, you can be like, yeah, I'll take the first 2 hit, and then after that, I'm just going to keep my Bagua up so I can ramp into my Kusan faster. Like if you're going first, you go into events, and then because you're events, you're going to be able to get to your 10-drop 1 turn before, which is huge. It's admittedly very, very important. Impact Wave against aggressive decks is really good. It's just the trigger effect on life is also insanely good. So I would suggest more like playing these two. I think you do have to play a high amount of 4K counters in this deck because you have to survive a lot, and these cards just allow you to do that. So I would play like 3 and 3 on this one. It depends on each one. And now for the ramping effects, again, these are just like tech cards. I don't even think they're like necessary in the deck, but they're really good for what they do. Like being able to remove a 1-drop and ramp 1 card is really good. But if you're going second, which is where you play this on curve, is not that amazing because I mean, you go to 7, but 7 doesn't allow you to play anything faster or use your leader ability faster. So it has to be in a combination of 2 ramp spells at that point, and then how many are you playing for that reason? So it's not that like game breaking to play like this card or the bomber. The bomber going second is better against like high, like mid-range decks that it is against aggressive decks. So you can play some amount of these cards. They're not bad. It's just that they're better when you're going first, and then at that point you're not playing anything faster if you're playing the boomer. Or if the Elephant Machado, you're skipping your turn 5, which your turn 5, I mean 5 or 6 energy is very important for this deck. So take it for what it is. It's not that like it is what it is. Like it's not, you're not getting that much value out of these cards early on, but later into the late game, being able to use the leader and use this card after you played your Kosan are very important because you're able to remove something and you're able to ramp back into 10, so you can keep using your leader without having to minus every turn, which is really important. Great Eruption, it's a good card that gives you a little bit of reach, so you can use your leader on 1 turn that you want to use it. So you, for 1 energy, you get to basically cycle it and then minus something, and it's good. It's efficient. I wouldn't play it as like a high value total, as the trigger effect is not even that good. But at least a 1, maybe a 2 off, it could be really good in the deck. Alright, and we get into the leaders and what you have to do against this one. Your worst matchup is going to be Zoro. Zoro, you have to see a lot of removal at a lot of your early game, and even then it's still going to be hard. You should never try to play the Kusan in this matchup. You're going to lose most of the time if you're trying to do that. If you're playing the discard engines, just discard your 10-drop Kusans. They're not going to do anything. Try to use the leader ability as a tempo play, but don't use it too early, as that can just take you out of the game like unnecessarily, because you do need to get to 10 energy, do more plays to be able to keep up with the red decks. This one is gonna be more also on the removal side. Like this is not gonna be that hard of a matchup if you're able to remove their stuff early on. If you're playing kings, you're able to 2-for-1 them, and you're able to just stifle their turns enough to where you're gonna take over during the late game. So this one I wouldn't worry too much. You can go second, you can go first. It doesn't really matter. Kiemon is gonna be your best matchup. Is the one that you're aiming for. You wanna see this matchup a lot, as you want to go second again in this matchup, as they also want to go second. So you're taking that away from them. If you're able to go second, it's good. If you go first, it's not the biggest deal either. But you want to get to your 10-drop Kusan, and after you have your 10-drop Kusan, they're not going to have a board. And you have to be selective to what you use when you're using this leader, so you don't like over minus affect the leader yourself out of the game. Because that could happen. If you're minusing every turn after you play the Kusan, then there gets a point where you don't have any energy to do any plays, and that could be a problem. So you have to be careful when you use that ability. Against Ivankov is not going to be your worst matchup. It's going to be an okay matchup for you. You have a lot of good removal, and as long as you can keep the opponent from playing anything and you play yourself some of the cards to allow you to get there, is what you need. So this is not going to be your worst matchup. It's not going to be your bad matchup. It's just going to be down the mirror. Z again is something that is going to be decided by whoever can stick the 10-drop on the same turn. So this is just like this two is going to be basically the same thing. Although you do have a much easier time removing their 10-drop, but you want to be able to just play your 10-drop, remove their 2 cards, whatever is allowing them to reduce the cost of your 10-drop, And as long as you can keep a 10-drop on board, this card will outvalue the any of the other black decks. So you have to be able to just stick your own 8-drop and trying to ramp into that, and that's what you're trying to mulligan towards. Also against the Smoker, they do have some cards that cannot be KO'd. So that's the cards that you have to watch out for. But you should be fine in this matchup. As long as you get to your 10-drop, you should be able to win the matchup. Edward Newgate, it's an okay matchup for you, actually. You do have a lot of removal, and they do hate that, being able to remove their 4-drops or anything else in between, and also offer a lot of pressure is going to be really important. Try to not take too much damage early on. If you can play the blocker, where you can block the early attacks, or you can out-combo the early attacks, is going to go a long way for the late game. Being able to get healthy to the late game is going to be good. But yeah, this is not going to be a bad matchup for you. I think it's on the better end of the matchup. It doesn't matter if you go first or second in this matchup, to be honest. All right, and for final thoughts for this deck, Z is a really powerful deck. It's been a little bit gate-kept out of the format because of Zoro, mainly. This has been the most difficult matchup for me to figure out, or I mean, I think that's the reason that it hasn't been seen so much play. Everything else, it's an okay, it's a good matchup for you. It's not a horrible matchup for you. It's just the Zoro decks are too aggressive, too fast, and too powerful. And even if you do tech for them, you might still lose that game because they're just that good against you. And I mean, if you're thinking about taking this deck into the larger events, you should really be aware of that fact. It's a good deck. You will do well with it if you don't see that many red players. And if you're trying to go for them, just mold your deck so you can beat those red decks. It's really important for that reason. But with that being said, thank you all for watching. Have a good day.